3 subject marks. I'll write like this 40, 50, and what is that? 60. And this is one student of how many subject marks? 3 subject marks. I want to represent 5 students, 3 subject marks. Then I try to create how many lists here? 5 lists. So this is a first student, and this is a second student, and this is a third student. Okay, this is a third student, and this is a fourth student, and this is what here? Fifth student. Okay, this is a first student, second student, third student, fourth student, and fifth student. So total how many lists are there here? 5 lists. And all these 5 lists I put inside one list. All these 5 lists I put inside one list. Okay. So within the list, how many lists are there here? 5 lists are there. And each list represent the marks of one student. Each list represent the marks of one student. These are the marks of first student. These are the marks of second student. This is a marks of third student. This is a marks of fourth student. And this is a marks of which one? Fifth student. So total how many students are there? 5 student. Then I'll say here marks. So marks equal to what here? List. So this marks list contain how many student marks? 5 student marks. If I want the first student marks, I'll say marks of 0. What is marks of 0? It is one list. What is marks of 0? It is one list where 40, 50, and what is that? 60. Suppose if I'm writing marks of 1, what is marks of 1? Marks of 1 is again one more list, which is having 50, say 60, and what is that? 70. If I'm writing marks of 2, marks of 2 is again one more list, which is having 70, okay, 80, and one more is what? 90. But each element inside the list is what? One list. Each element inside the list is what? One list. This is 30. Okay, 30, 50, and one more value is what? 60. And there is a marks of 4, and this is having some 98, 87, and one more value is 67. Now inside the list, how many lists are there here? 5 lists. There you go. Now, so this is the index 0. This element index is what here? 0. And this element index is what here? 1. And this element index is a 2. And this element index is what? 3. And this element index is what? 4. And within this list, this element index is what? 0. This element index is 1. And this element index is 2. And within this element index is 0. This is 1, and this is 2. And this is 0, this is 1, and this is what here? 2. And this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. And this is 0, this is 1, and this is what here? 2. It means if I want first student, first subject, I'll use 0, 0. Okay, 0 is a first student, and 0 is what? First subject. 0, 1, 0, 2. So how many subscripts I'm using? 2. One is a row index, and one more is what? Column index. So first student, first subject. First student, second subject. First student, third subject. 1, 0. 1, 0 is nothing but second student, first subject. 1, 1 is nothing but second student, second subject. 1, 2 is nothing but second student, third subject. So if you want to read, so you are trying to read by giving how many subscripts here? 2 subscripts. One is called as a row subscript, and one more is called as what? Column subscript. So this subscript is nothing but what here? Index. Okay, this subscript is called as what here? Index. So you are trying to use 2 indexes. One is a row index, and one more is what? Column index. You are trying to use how many indexes here? 2 indexes. One is a row index, and one more is a column index. So that is 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 1, 0, 1, 1, and 1, 2. Now it is just like I said, Nested list can be represented as one matrix. I want to create, suppose I want to create some 2 by 2 matrix or 3 by 3 matrix. So I'm saying matrix 1, I'm saying matrix 1 equal to, this is a matrix. Within this matrix, how many rows are there? 3 rows are there. Now this is the first row which contain 3 columns, and this is a second row contain how many columns? 3 columns, and this is a third row contain how many columns? 3 columns. Okay, so it is nothing but it is created one list. Assume that this is a list, and this list is having how many lists here? 3 lists. This is having address of first list. This is having address of second list, and this is having address of what? Third list. It's nothing but this is a first row, and this is a second row, and this is what here? Third row. So within the list, this is called as a list. Okay, this is called as one list. This is called outer list, and this is called as which list? Inner list. So this list is having how many values? 3 values. And this list is having how many values? 3 values. And these values are like this. So this is 1, 2, 3, and this is 1, 2, 3, and this is 4, 5. This is 4, 5, 6, and this is 4, 5, 6, and this is 7, 8, 7, 8, and what is that? 9. You can say this is 0. This is first row 1, and this is 2, and this can be called as 0, and this is 1, and this is what? 2. If I want first row, I'll say matrix 1 of 0. Now this will refer to the first row, which is nothing but one list or not? Yes. And this is matrix 1 of 1, and this will refer to the second row. This will refer to the second row, which is having 4, 5, 6. And there is a matrix 1 of 2, and this will refer to the third row, and that is nothing but 7, 8, and this one more value called 9. So matrix 1 of 0, matrix 1 of 1, and matrix 1 of what? 2. So if you want to read the elements, you can say matrix 1 of 0, 0. So that is nothing but first row, first column. And if I'm saying matrix 1 of 0, 1, and first row, second column. And if I'm saying matrix 1 of 0, 2, this will refer third row. This will refer to now third row, third column. And what is the third row, third column here? 3. So you have 2 indexes. One is a row index, and one more is called as column index. You can write matrix 1 of 1, 0. So that is a second row, first column. Second row, first column is 4. And I'm saying here matrix 1 of 1, 1. That is second row, second column, like this. So you are trying to use how many indexes here? 2 indexes. And this is called as a row index. You are trying to use 2 indexes. One is row index, and there is one more index. This is called as which one? Column index. So there are 2 indexes. One is row index, and one more is a column index. Okay. So nested list, which is used to represent which one here? Matrix. So it means where you store more data by organizing logically, where you store more data by organizing logically into number of rows and columns. Where you store more data organizing logically by dividing into number of rows and columns. Logically, I'm saying logical. Okay. Yes. Let us see how to read this. But reading is done by using different approaches here. Reading is done using different approaches here. So it is like this. For example, I try to create a matrix. So I try to create a matrix. You can read the elements. You can read the elements from the nested list in different ways. Now you can read it by using index. You can read it by using index 1, 2, 3. I said yes, 4, 5, 6 or 5, 6, 7 or something. 4, 5, 6, and one more is 7, 8, 9. So this is a matrix 1. Contain how many rows are there here? 3 rows. And each row is having how many values? 3 values. So that is nothing but 3 rows and 3 columns. Okay, then I said this is the first element. The index of this first element is what? 0. And the index of second element is again listed. And this index is what here? 1. The third element is what here? 3. And this index is this. Now, total how many rows are there here? 3 rows. 0, 1. Total how many rows are there here? 3 rows. So that is 0, 1 and 2. Total number of rows are 3. Then I'm saying for I in a range of, okay, range of 3. For I in range of 3. What is this 3 here? Stop. What is this 3 here? Stop value. Then what is the start value? 0. What is the start value? 0. And here stop value is a 3. Means it will generate how many values here? 0, 1, 2. So how many rows are there? 3 rows. What is the first row index? 0. First I value is what? 0. Next I value is what? 1. Next I value is what? 2. This range will generate how many indexes? 3 indexes. That is 0, 1 and 2. This range will generate how many indexes? 3 indexes. That is 0, 1, 2. Right? And each row is having how many values? 3 values. Okay, now this is 0 and this is 1, this is 2. Each row is having how many values? 3 values. Then inside the loop, I am writing another one. So for j in range of what? 3. For j in range of 3, this range will generate how many values? 3 values. That is 0, 1 and 2. What is the value of I? 0. Then what is the value of j here? 0. So 0, 0, 0, 1 and 0, 2. I'll try to print like this. Print matrix 1 of I and j. Matrix 1 of I and j. I write matrix 1 of I and j. Okay. So first I value is 0. The value of I is 0. This is nested looping statements. Nested for loops. Nested for loop. This is I. I is nothing but row and j is nothing but column. So first I value is what? 0. Then j value is what again? 0. Then print matrix of 0, 0. What is 0, 0? 1. Then next j value is what? 1. Okay, then what is 0, 1, 2? Okay, next j value is what? 3. Next j value is a 2. Then 0, 0, 2 is what here? 3. Okay, so after executing inner loop, it will go to outer loop where I value becomes what? 1. Where I value becomes what? 1. Then again j value becomes what? 0. So what is 1, 0 here? 4. 1, 0 is a 4. Next j value becomes 1 and then is 1, 1. And what is 1, 1 here? 5. Next j value is a 2. Then what is a 1, 2 here? 6. Now outer loop is for row index and inner loop is for which one? Row index, and inner loop is for column index. How many rows are there? 3 rows. And each row is having how many columns? 3 columns. I'm using outer loop for generating row indexes. I'm using inner loop for generating what? column indexes, row indexes, and one more is a column, right? So one is a row indexes and one more is a column index, right? Okay. So if you want to read it, you can read it by using index. If you want to read it, you can read it by using index. I'm trying to create some matrix 1 equal to 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm writing here 7, 8. And there's one more value called 9. So for I in range of, for I in range of 3, okay, for j in range of what? 3, and print matrix 1 of I and j. Print matrix 1 of I and j, right? And after printing each row, I insert one new line. After printing each row, I insert one new line. Just see here. So once you run this, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9. So this is creating 3 by 3 matrix. This is creating 3 by 3 matrix and displaying it, right? Creating 3 by 3 matrix and displaying it. But how you are trying to display it? By using, how you are trying to display it? By using index. How you are trying to display it? By using what? Index. So outer loop is for row index and inner loop is for column index. Now without using index, can you read it? Without using index, can you read it? Yes. By using iterators. By using what? Iterator, enumerator. By using iterator or what? Enumerator. Or you can use directly for loop also. You can directly use a for loop. Now here I'm using for loop for generating indexes, but I can use directly for R in matrix 1. Okay, for R in what is that? Matrix 1. So each time it will read one element from matrix 1, but each element in matrix is what? Each element in matrix is what? List. Each element in matrix is what? List. So it will read the first element. What is the first element here? List. What is the first element here? List. What is R here? First row. R is holding first row, right? R is holding first row. Now if I say print R, if I say print R, will it print the first row or not? Yes. That is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. After that, read the second element. Is the second element is again list or not? Yes. Now this time R is holding which list? Second list. It will print what? It will print what? 4, 5. 4, 5 what? 6. Then read the next row. Now what is the next row? Is again a list. What is the next row? Again here list. So what is the list here? 7, 8. What is this list here? 7, 8, 9. There is one more list. What is that list here? 7, 8, 9. So here you are reading each time one element, but each element in the list is one list or not? Yes. But here we read only rows. But I want to read rows and then I want to read values within that rows. Means I want to read rows as well as what? Columns. Then first you have to read what? Row. For R in what is that? Matrix 1. For R in matrix 1. So first you read one row. What is the first row? What is the first row here? 1, 2, 3. This is one list or not? Yes. After reading this list, from this list you have to read which one? Column. For R in what is that? Row. What is R here? List. From this list you read first value. What is the first value in the list? 1. What is the second value in the list? 2. What is the third value in the list? 3. What is the first value in the list? 1. What is the second value in the list? 2. What is the third value in the list? 3. So outer loop is for reading the elements from outer list, and inner loop is reading the elements from what? Inner list. So inner list is nothing but a row and you are reading each column. So this is how you are trying to read. Okay, now you are reading one row. What is this row here? What is this row here? 1, 2, 3. This is one list. And from this list, you are reading each time one value. So 1 is assigned to C. And print C means what is the value of C? 1. And read and assign this to C. What is this value? 2. And read 3 and assign it to C. What is the value of this here? 3. Then after printing first row, then it will read which one? Second row. What is R now? Another list. And this list is having how many values? 3 values. And you are reading each value. Now what is the first value? What is the first value? 4. And read the second value. What is the second value? 5. And read the next value. What is the next value? 6. It is read how many values? 3 values. That is 4, 5, and one more is what? 6. Okay. Now just try to understand how to read elements from the nested list. How to read the elements from the nested list. And this is one way of reading the elements. But this is done by using which one? Index. But this is by using which one? For loop. But without using index. Because for loop is having internal iterator. For loop is having internal iterator that iterator iterate each time one element from what list. That iterator each time element read or iterate one element from which one list. So that is internal iterator. Just to see here, instead of using this, I'm writing for row in matrix 1 and for column in which one? Row. So what you are printing here? Columns. So each time you are reading one row from the matrix, from each row you are reading one value from the row. This is reading a row from matrix and this is reading columns from the row. Using internal iterator provided by which one here? For loop. Internal iterator provided by for loop. So for loop range. These both are very much useful, right? For loop and range. So here I generated indexes, but here I have not generated any indexes. I read directly using which iterator? I directly read it using which iterator? Internal iterator. So which will read each time one element. What is the first element? List. What is the second element? List. What is the third element? List. Each list is one row or not? Yes. After reading row, I have to read what? Values. For reading values, you write another for loop. After reading row, you write another for loop to read what? Values. So that is where you'll use nested for. So for loop inside a for loop is called as which one? Nested for loop. Nested for loop. Just try to understand. All these are very much useful in application development. All these are very much useful in application development, right? Just try to understand this, how you are writing the things. Okay. Okay, suppose I want to read the elements into I want to create dynamic matrix. Dynamic matrix means I want to input the values at runtime. But here the matrix is created by giving the things inside the program or not. Yes. I want to input the values at what? Runtime. I want to input the values at runtime. I don't want to input the values now. I want to input the values at what? Runtime. I want to input the values at runtime, not within the program. Okay. Yes. Now just here, write a program to read Which matrix here? 3 by 3 matrix and display it. I want to write a program to read which matrix? 3 by 3 matrix. You are representing the matrix as one list. You are representing matrix as one list. It means this matrix is empty or not? Yes. Is it having any rows? No. There is no rows and there is no columns. So I want to read 3 by 3 matrix means I have to create how many lists inside this list? I have to create how many lists inside this list? 3 lists. Okay, a matrix hai, kali empty matrix. This is empty matrix. This list is nothing but matrix. And inside this, you don't have any rows. Row is nothing but one list or not? Yes. Inside this list, you have to create how many lists? 3 lists. Inside this list, you have to create how many lists? 3 lists for in range of, what is this? 3. This loop is executed how many times? 3 times. And you have to create each time one list. You have to create each time one list. Each list is called as one row or not? Yes. So row is nothing but empty list or not? Yes. And this list you are adding to which one? Matrix. This list you are adding to which one? Matrix. This list is added to the matrix. Now, this for loop is executed how many times? 3 times. Then how many list will be added? How many list will be added into the matrix? 3 lists. How many list will be added into the matrix? 3 lists. If I run this, how many lists are there? 3 lists. Is it each list is one row or not? Yes. But is it any values? No. I have to read how many values in each row? I have to read how many values in each row? 3 values. Then I have to write one more loop or not? Yes. For j in range of what? 3. Read the elements. Integer of input enter what? Element. And this element you are adding to which one? Row dot append. Row dot append which one? Element. So first row added this into the matrix. Inside this row, you are reading how many values? 3 values. Second row added this row into the matrix and read how many values? 3 values. Third row added this row into the matrix and read how many values? 3 values. Now your matrix is having 3 rows and now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Your matrix is having how many rows now? 3 rows and with how many values? 3 values. 3 rows and 3 values. Okay, so this is adding values into each row. This is adding values into each row. Now this is outer loop and this is what here? Inner loop. And if you want to display like a matrix, you can read it for row in. For row in which one? Matrix. Per column in which one? Row. And print what? Column. Print column. And after printing each row, I want to insert one new line. So enter the elements. Okay, 10, 20, 30, like this. I try to input some number of elements. You can see this is the first row, second row, and this is what? Third row. And each row is having how many values here? 3 values. Each row is having 3 values, right? So this is reading the matrix of 3 rows and 3 columns. Okay. You have to practice. Okay, you have to practice. Okay, now. So right now this is a output. Okay, just see the output of this. Okay, suppose the question is like this again. Suppose write a program to find, write a program to read 3 students and what? 3 students and 3 subjects, marks and display. Suppose 3 students and 3 subject marks. I want to write a program to read how many students? 3 students. With how many subjects here? 3 subjects. Write a program to read 3 students and 3 subject marks and then display it. Three students and 3 subjects. 3 students, 3 subjects means what is this? 3 students and 3 subjects means what? How many rows? 3 rows and 3 subjects means 3 columns. Now you have to create a matrix with how many rows here? 3 rows and 3 columns. That's it. Then you have to create one list. There is a list. What is this list here? Marks list. So inside this marks list, you have to store the marks of how many students? 3 students. Then for I in range of how many? 3 students. Each student is one list or not? Yes. Student equal to list. Inside this marks list, you have to add how many students? 3 students. And each student is having how many subjects? 3 subjects. Read it. For j in range of, what is this? 3. And this is a marks. S equal to integer of input. Enter what? Marks. And this marks you are adding to which one? Student. And this student you are adding to which one? Marks dot append each student. So we are created student and we read how many subjects? 3 subjects. And that student is added into which list? Marks list. Now this for loop is executed how many times? 3 times. Then how many students are added in this marks? 3 students. And each student you added how many marks? 3 subject marks. Okay. Then I want to display total, average. I want to display total, average along with the marks. Then for student in which one? Marks. Will it read each student marks? And after that, I'm displaying it. Print. Print what is that? Student. And print sum of student. And print sum of student. Print sum of student divided by which one? 3. So each student is one list. And you are adding by using which function? Sum function. You are finding the average by using sum divided by what? 3. Because how many subjects are there? 3 subjects. That's it. Okay. Very simple. Very simple. Enter marks. This is the first student. So I try to enter first student's marks. I try to enter second student marks. I try to enter third student marks, right? You can see this is the first student. These are the marks of first student and this is total and this is average. And this is the second student and this is the total and this is average. And this is the third student. This is the third student and this is total and this is average. Average. But if you want to format, this is which one? Student. And this is which one? Sum of student. And this is which one? Sum of student by 3 colon dot 2f. I don't want those many number of precisions. I want how many decimal values? 2. Then run this. How many subjects? Now this is first student. And this is a second student. And this is a third student. Okay. You can see this is a first student marks. And this is a total and this is average. And this is a second student marks. And this is a total and this is average. And this is a third student marks. And this is a total and this is average. But this is how you create a list inside a this is how you create a list inside a list. So creating list inside a list is called as which one? A nested list. Now you can also find out the maximum. So which subject is maximum? If you want to have maximum, suppose now max of which one student? This is called as which marks here? Maximum marks in 3 subjects. Okay, then I'll say minimum of STUD. Now this will display minimum marks in 3 subjects, maximum marks in 3 subjects, and minimum marks in 3 subjects. I try to display minimum as well as what? Maximum. Uh, Max. So you need to enter the marks. Now this is how you're trying to enter. Right now, this is second student, and this is a third student. Now you can see these are the marks, and this is total average maximum in 3 subjects and minimum in 3 subjects. Maximum in 3 subjects and minimum in. Okay, right? Yes. So this is how you can do calculations, right? Suppose write a program to add 2 matrices. Write a program to add 2 matrices. I want to write a program for adding 2 matrices. So first you have to read. First you have to read what? Matrices. First you have to read the matrices. For example, so I'm reading some 2 by 2 matrix. Right now there is a matrix 1. There is a matrix 1 and there is a matrix 2. There is a matrix 1 and matrix 2. Matrix 1 is one list and matrix 2 is what? Another list. But I want to read 2 by 2 matrix. Means inside this matrix, I have to create how many lists here? 2 lists. Inside this matrix, I have to create how many lists? 2 lists. 2 lists I have to create it. How many lists I have to create it? 2 lists I have to create it. Right? And each list I should store how many values? 2 values. Okay. So print, enter the elements. Enter the elements of first matrix. Enter the elements of first matrix for I in range of which one? 2. And for J in range of what? 2. And you have to create one row, and inside this row you have to read the elements. Integer of input, enter elements, enter element, and this element you are adding to the row, and this row you are adding to which one? Matrix 1. Matrix 1 dot append row. So first we created row, and inside this row we read how many values? 2 values, and this row is added to which one? Matrix 1. Okay. The next print, enter the elements of which one? Second matrix. Enter the elements of second matrix for I in range of what? 2. And then again you are creating a row, and inside this row you have to read how many values? 2 values. Element equal to integer of input, enter what is that? Element. And then row dot append, you are adding this element to the row, and this row you are adding to the matrix 2. Matrix 2 dot append, what you are adding here? Row. So this is reading how many matrices? 2 matrices. Now this is a matrix 1 and this is a matrix 2. There is a matrix 1 and there is a matrix 2. Enter the elements 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, then 9, 8, 7, 6. Now this is a first matrix and this is what? second matrix with 2 rows and 2 columns. But I want to have which one? Sum of this both. I want to have a sum of this both the matrices. I want to add these two matrices. I want to add these two matrices. How can I add it? For in range of how many rows are there? 2 rows. And third matrix, I'm creating a row. This is row of which one? Third matrix. I try to create matrix. What is this matrix? 3. Then for Jn range of 2 and row dot append, I'm saying matrix 1 of ij, matrix 1 of ij plus matrix 2 of ij. I is nothing but what here? Row index. And j is nothing but which one? Column index. So matrix 1 of 0, 0 plus matrix 2 of 0, 0. Matrix 1 of 0, 1 plus matrix 2 of 0, 1. Matrix 1 of 0, 0 plus matrix 2 of 0, 0. Matrix 1 of 0, 1 plus matrix 2 of what? 0, 1. Then next I value is 1. Matrix 1 of 1, 0 plus matrix 2 of 1, 0. Matrix 1 of 1, 1 plus matrix 2 of what? 1, 1. And that you are adding inside what? Row. And this row you are adding to which one? Matrix 3 dot append. Which one? Row. And then display. Okay, display. Yeah, you can read the row and column values directly. You can read row and column values also directly instead of using range. You can read first row and then read the values and add those values. But actually, we need to read how many matrices here. We need to read how many matrices here. 2 matrices, matrix 1 and matrix 2. So because of that, I use which one? Index. Okay. Because of that, I use what here? Index. Because of that, I use index. Okay. So that is reading the elements of first matrix and reading the elements of second matrix and printing. Yes. Third matrix. Yeah, you can print it. You want to add directly. You don't want to store in matrix 3 here. You don't want to store in matrix 3. If you don't want to store in matrix 3, you can do that. No problem. Okay, right? So we are adding these elements into the row, and this row you are adding into what? Matrix 3. Okay. And how it will store directly here? How it will store directly? You have to append. This is dynamic, right? So dynamically means you have to store it. Okay, now you can see 1 plus 4 is a 5 and 2 plus 5 is 7 and 3 plus 7 is a 9, 3 plus 6 is a 9 and 4 plus 7 is a 11, right? So here we try to read each time one and we are trying to do what? Addition? Yes. So if you don't want to use, so what you can do is, if you don't want index, what you can do is, you can read. So this is row 1 and then row 2. Then just write here matrix 1 comma matrix 2, matrix 1 comma matrix 2. So it is nothing but it will read one matrix from, okay, so this is a row 1 of matrix 1. This is a row from matrix 1, M1 row, matrix 1 row, and this is M2 row. Means it will read one row from which one? Matrix 1. It will read one row from which one? Matrix 2. And then read. So matrix 1 column, comma matrix 2 column. Then you have to write here matrix 1 row, comma matrix 2 row. Then you add it by saying M1C plus M2C. M1C plus M2C. Okay. Now generally, this is a range. Why range again? No range here. So enter the elements. So these are the elements. Now you can see this is what here? Sum. So here we are reading one row from matrix 1 and we are reading one row from what? Matrix 2. We are reading one column from matrix 1 and we are reading one column from matrix 2. And add these two columns values and add as one row, right? So this is another approach. This is one more approach where you are not using index, right? Where you are not using index. For reading, you are not using any index here. For reading, you are not using any index. You are reading directly values and adding it, and then you are trying to put inside what? Matrix 3. So this one is with index. The first one is with index and second one is without index. Now this is how you write a list inside a list. See, that is what I said. Now you can read it by using indexes and you can read it without using. This is with using index or without using index? Without using index. First you are reading the row and from that row you are reading which one? Columns. First you are reading the row and from that you are reading which one? Columns. So you can also create a list by using comprehension. You can also create a list by using which one? Comprehension. Like in the beginning we have seen. How many ways can you create a list? How many ways can you create a list? You can create a list by using square brackets that represent empty list. You can create a list by writing list of elements. Okay. So this is separated with comma. And you can create a list by using which one? List comprehension. You can create a list by using what? List comprehension. You can create a list using list comprehension and you can create a list by using which type? List type. How many ways can you create a list here? 4 ways. One is empty list, writing the square brackets, and one is a list by writing elements separated with what? Comma. And third one is using which one? Comprehension. And fourth one is using list type. Now this is used to convert other iterables into which type here? List type. If you want to convert other iterables into which type? List type. Then you try to take the help of which one? List. But we have seen all this. We have seen all this. But we have to see one more. What is that here? List comprehension. So what is comprehension, right? This is called as comprehensions. This is called as comprehensions. This comprehensions comes under displays. This comprehension comes under which one? Displays. Displays are the same thing. You call it as which one? Comprehensions. But these comprehensions are not only related to the list. This comprehension also belongs to which one? Set as well as what? Dictionaries. So this comprehension is not only list comprehension is there, set comprehension is there, and dictionary comprehension is also there. List comprehension, set comprehension, and dictionary comprehension. These comprehensions are also called as which one? Displays. This comprehension also called as displays. Okay. So Python allows to create. Python allows to create collections like list, dictionary, and set. Python allows to create, okay, list, set, and what? Dictionaries by representing values directly, or by using for loop, and that you can call it as which one? Comprehension. If you see what is the meaning of displays here, what is the meaning of displays? You try to represent the content of collection explicitly. You try to display the content of collection explicitly. Displays for list, set, and dictionary for constructing a list, for constructing a list, set, for constructing a list, a set, or a dictionary. Python provide a special syntax called which one? Displays. For each of them in how many flavors here? 2 flavors. For each of them in 2 flavors. The first one is what we learn, right? First one is what we learn. That is the first approach. But the second approach is comprehension. So either the container contents are listed explicitly. First approach is what? The container contents are listed explicitly. Container content is listed explicitly. For example, whatever we have seen is the first approach. What we are writing within the square brackets, you are displaying the content explicitly. I'm saying 10, 20, 30, 40, and what is that? 50. This is the first approach. The container, what is a container here? List. What is a container here? List. And this list is having how many values? 5 values. So this is a container, and this container is having how many values? 5 values. So container content is defined explicitly. Now how many values are there inside this container? 5 values. Now then I'm trying to say some Naresh, Suresh, and one more is what? Rajesh, like this. Now this list is having how many names? 3 names. So is it defining this content explicitly or not? Yes. This is a first approach. This is called as which approach? First approach. But there is one more approach. They are computed via set of looping and filtering instructions. They are computed via set of looping and what? Filtering instructions. And this is called as which one? Comprehension. They are computed by a set of looping and filtering instructions, and this are called as which one here? Comprehension. You have to understand what is a comprehension is. So within the square bracket, what you can do is you can write. You can write within the square bracket. You can write what? Looping statement. Inside the square bracket itself, you can write which one? For loop. Okay, inside the square brackets, you can define what? For loop. And within the square bracket, you can write what? If within the square bracket, you can write what? Expression. You can write for loop, if, and what is that? Expression. Inside the inside the square bracket represent what? List. I'm creating a list using for loop. I'm creating a list using which one? For loop. And using what? If is nothing but condition. Based on that, I'll evaluate what? Expression. And the result will be stored inside what? List. So comprehension makes it creating collections more easier. Comprehension makes it creating collection more easy. Comprehension makes it creating collections more easy by writing for loop inside the square brackets. For loop, by writing a for loop inside the square brackets, by writing if statement within the square brackets. For example, I want to write, suppose I want to write a program to read how many values? 5 values inside list. I want to read how many values inside list? 5 values. What do you do it first? You create the list. Which list you create? Empty list. Then you use for loop for in range of what? 5. This loop is executed how many times? 5 times. Then you read the element, integer of input. Now input, what is that? Enter element. And this element you are adding inside what? A list. Your list is having how many elements? 5 elements, right? Your list is having how many elements here? 5 elements. If I run this, enter element, I try to enter elements 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Now your list is having how many values here? 5 values. The first value is a 10, second value is 20, third value is 30, 40, and one more value is what? 50. List is having 5 values or not? Yes. But for doing this, how many statements you have written? You have written 1 for creating empty list, and then for loop. For loop you use for reading how many values? 5 values. And you are adding these 5 values inside what? A list. So for this, I write how many statements? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now instead of writing 4 statements, I can write in how many statements? 1 statement. 1 statement using what? Comprehension. By using what? Comprehension. Now you have to read how many values now. This is creating list or not? This is list, creation of list. Okay. Inside this list, I have to read how many values? 5 values. Now enter integer of enter element. Integer of enter element. So this will read how many elements? Alright, this will read how many elements here? This will read 1 element or 5 elements? 1 element. This will read 1 element or 5 elements? 1 element. But this should be repeated how many times? This should be repeated how many times? 5 times. Then I have to write which one here? For loop. For in range of which one? 5. It means same thing you put inside what? Square brackets. So inside this for loop, which statement is there? Input statement is there. This input statement is executed how many times here? 5 times. Now it will read how many values? 5 values. And then I print what? List 2. So comprehension, now this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Without using comprehension, and I'm writing 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. This is using comprehension. So using comprehension, you can do everything what? Easily. You can write everything in how many statements? 1 statement only. You can write everything in what? 1 statement. This is called elegant way of creating what? List set dictionaries. Elegant way of creating list set, and what is that? Dictionary by using for loop, if condition. But you are writing all this within the list only. At the time of creating the list only, within the square bracket only, you are writing everything. If you are writing inside the square bracket, that indicates what? List creation. Create a list. You are saying what? Create a list. Create a list. What you are saying here? Create a list. Create a list using which one? For loop. And inside this for loop, how many statements are there? One statement. This statement is repeated how many times? This statement is repeated how many times? 5 times. No, you cannot use while loop. You can use only for loop. You can use only for loop, but you cannot use while loop. But we'll try to see like how to work with this comprehensions, right? How to work with this comprehensions tomorrow, right? So today we'll stop it here, and tomorrow we'll continue with this comprehensions, right? Thank you. We'll see tomorrow.